Hey, what's already? Welcome back to News Dose, and the question of Xbox's next generation plan continues to raise alarms among fans, but there is a very interesting trend that seems to lean into their idea to the point that you have to kind of ask yourself, could they maybe be onto something after all? Well, we're running into all of that today as PC gaming continues to hit new heights. Now, we also have a PlayStation 5 hack to talk about, and this is kind of just the beginning of what could be a real headache for Sony by the end of 2026. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with Dragon Quest VII Reimagining. It won't be too long before it releases, but I'm happy to say that a playable demo will be available whether you want to test the waters just to see if you like it yourself, or if you just can't wait for the full release. You can see here where Square Enix announced that you can play the free demo for Dragon Quest VII Reimagined starting January 7th on Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam. And as a bit of a bonus, you'll be able to carry over your progress into the full game when it releases on February 5th of 2026. Now, this is actually something that Square Enix likes to do with a lot of their games, which I think is actually really cool. Personally, I wish more publishers did things like this. But nonetheless, this could be the first big JRPG of 2026. I know a lot of people were originally surprised that they chose to remake 7 instead of maybe 5 or 8. I was surprised as well, but it's still a beloved JRPG, and I really do like the new art style. So I'd say if anything else, especially on the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, the demo will kind of give us a good idea about its performance. Oh, and Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake continues to leak out online. Yeah, I'd say by this point it's really one of the worst kept secrets in the industry, but this time, somebody by the name of the Hidden One discovered a registered domain for Black Flag Resync. Yeah, they said that I was checking to see if Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced had a domain registered, and, well, it does. It was registered recently, only 25 days ago. It's registered through French Registrar. That's always been Ubisoft's default, and they use it all the time across their IPs like Far Cry, Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, Just Dance, and so on. So, I mean, you can kind of take this information with a grain of salt if you want, which is always the smart thing to do, really, when it comes to any kind of rumor. But even still, there is a lot of evidence that this game does indeed exist. So to me, I think it's more of a matter of when they announce it rather than if, but, you know, based on previous rumors, I mean, we also know that Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake has a chance for an imminent announcement sometime soon. So I'm thinking maybe they're going to start to announce these here in the coming months, possibly through the Ubisoft Forward or something like that. Oh, and The Witcher 3 could have a big surprise in store for 2026, which is kind of crazy to think about. You know, this game is going to be 11 years old this year, but apparently there is a report that is going to get another expansion later this year, possibly in May. Now, typically these type of rumors come from anonymous sources, but that's why this report is interesting, and that's because it comes from a Polish Noble Securities analyst that told Eurogamer that their information has been vetted, quote-unquote, by several independent sources. Now, I'd still take this information with a grain of salt until it's officially confirmed, but I mean, I really hope it's true, because The Witcher 3, in my opinion, not only is an all-time great RPG, but I still think it holds up incredibly well, even for modern platforms. I mean, it's got great characters, it's got a great story, the gameplay is unique and fun, and the art style, it really holds up very well. I mean, it's got some realism to it, but it's also got its own artistic flair that I think really leans into its timeless visuals. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with all this, but here's at the very least to hoping. All right, now let's go talk about the future of gaming for a moment, because there has been a very interesting trend here in the last few years, and we've even seen higher level people within the industry talk about this trend. I mean, most recently, the former PlayStation boss Sean Layden pointed out that the console business has somewhat stagnated. You know, if you look at PlayStation as an example, the PS5 has sold a lot of consoles this generation, but it's still slightly lower than the PlayStation 4. Now, maybe it'll eventually catch up and surpass the PS4's lifetime sales numbers, but overall, PlayStation has been flat generation over generation, and as we all know, Xbox has been on the decline. And that's not exactly a great thing when budgets for AAA games keeps increasing significantly. Now, with all that said, you would think that with Xbox's decline that the PlayStation 5 would have at the very least increased in units sold, but that's not really how all of this is played out. And, that's not exactly a great sign for the console market either. See, what's happening here is that migration seems to be heading over to the PC instead of consoles. Here in the past few years, consoles have been stagnant, but PC, on the other hand, it's been increasing year in and year out, and we can see that directly correlated with the constant records that games break on Steam. I mean, it seems like every new AAA sequel breaks the previous game's record of concurrent players within a day or two, and that's just because there's more gamers on Steam than ever before. In fact, it was just revealed today that Steam broke its all-time peak high concurrent players with nearly 42 million players, which is absolutely incredible. But again, this has been a trend for several years now, and it kind of tells us a story. Again, if you look at Xbox, it's on a decline. And like I said, you would think that would mean that the PS5 would soar above the PlayStation 4, but that's not been the case. And that's seemingly because those gamers that are leaving Xbox are maybe going to the PC instead. That seems to be the growing platform. And really, I'd say for a good reason. Valve has built up a great reputation for how good Steam is, all of the discounts it has year-round, and plus, it doesn't have all the subscriptions tied to it that consoles try to sell us constantly. There's no online subscription forced onto you just to play something like Battlefield 6. Instead, it has free multiplayer the way that it should be. And gamers take note of that type of stuff. I mean, Valve, they're going to release their Steam machine sometime later this year, and price has been a big talking point for it. There is a fear that it's going to cost a lot of money because of the entire RAM situation, but at the same time, because Steam has free multiplayer, they can kind of make up for that upfront cost, which is something that we see a lot in PC gaming. I mean, think about it this way. If you bought the PlayStation 5 in, let's say, 2020 when it first launched, and if you're an avid multiplayer gamer that keeps a PlayStation Plus subscription year-round, that's going to stack over its lifespan, which will likely be anywhere between 7 to 10 years. So that's a lot of extra money that you're going to pay for that subscription that you're not going to have to pay on any kind of PC machine. So I think that's where the upfront cost for PC gaming isn't necessarily as bad as what some people make it out to be. But nonetheless, this got me to thinking about Xbox because their next generation console is pretty much all but confirmed to be a PC console hybrid, which ironically may also play Steam games. And I get it, they've taken a lot of criticism for their multi-platform initiative. I'm not exactly a big fan of what they've done this generation either, but if you look at PC, it's not exclusives that sell the platform. And yet, for whatever reason, it's still growing on a yearly basis. So maybe Xbox isn't as crazy as what we think they are. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't loved every move that they've made these past few years, but at the same time, and I've said it on multiple occasions, I do see their PC console hybrid idea as interesting on paper, not only because of the growth of PC gaming. I mean, maybe it's the right time for these console manufacturers to welcome the idea of PC, just considering its growth, but also because the next Xbox has an opportunity to become the most compatible platform on the market, all while still feeling like a console. I mean, that right there is one of the main reasons that a lot of people are excited about something like the Steam machine. There's this idea that it has everything that gamers love about PC gaming, but it's also an easy turn-on and play experience like a console. And that's what the next Xbox is. But instead of something like Linux, it'll be based on Windows instead. So, at the end of the day, I think it's a neat idea on paper, but let me know what you think. Do you think Xbox is right after all, that PC gaming is the future, or do you still just not like their idea? Now, one more thing before we go, though, because the PlayStation 5 has been hit by a very interesting hack that could open up the system to homebrew possibly sooner rather than later, and that's all because of a little game by the name of Star Wars Racer Revenge. Yeah, that might be a little bit unexpected, but you can see here the Star Wars Racer Revenge, which sports the CUSA 03474 game code, hides a rare vulnerability that lets developers inject code directly into the PlayStation system, an exploit that's quietly evaded patches since the game's 2002 PlayStation 2 debut. Critically, only the PlayStation 4 physical edition, not the PlayStation 2 original, is vulnerable to the jailbreak. That version was released as an ultra-limited run of just 8,500 copies worldwide, making it a hot ticket for jailbreakers. And that's one of the things that a lot of people have taken notice of, or at least early on, because this vulnerability has caused Star Wars Racer Revenge to spike in price on eBay all the way up to $400. And let me go and tell you right now, do not go out and buy this game to jailbreak your PS5 unless you're good at hacking. And the reason I say that is because, from my understanding, a vulnerability has been found, but the jailbreak itself isn't public yet. So this more so is kind of the first step to what's to come next. So I'd say you should probably still wait it out. And, by that point, there could be other ways to jailbreak the PlayStation 5 instead of using this game, which will then give people access to all kinds of homebrew, which, could really be interesting on the PlayStation 5. However, I will say that you also might want to pay attention to your PlayStation 5 firmware if you are interested in this, because, I'm sure Sony is going to try and battle this out. So maybe don't update your PS5 right away, or at least until you learn more about this situation. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.